ToolkitRC are really on a roll at the moment. It was only last month I reviewed the M4 Pocket, and this new M9 Multi Function charger has just arrived in the Whirlybloke labs. The range of chargers they now have to suit every pocket is impressive. This is a 600 watt 2S-8S balance charger and multi-function battery meter, a watt meter, a signal source and tester, all packaged into this very nice case with this fantastic tilting display. It's like they've merged all their products into one box, and it's got a few cute tricks up its sleeve.
Welcome to ToolkitRC.
Hello and welcome to the Whirlybloke channel, and this is YouTube. You know what to do. Subscribe and hit the bell for more videos like this. A lot of this charger will be familiar to anyone who's used a ToolkitRC charger in the last couple of years. It's got the usual clickable scroll wheel on the side and this single button, but the first thing you'll notice is this fantastic tilting display. It really is very good, and it's got this very nice satin black finish. Although the viewing angle on this 2.4-inch IPS display is excellent and it's very bright, although I've had to knock it down a bit to stop it swamping the camera out, the tilting screen does make it much easier to use on the bench when it's sitting over there somewhere. On the front here we've got the XD60 main connector port and the 8S balance connector, and this will charge all the usual chemistries, LiPo, high voltage LiPo, lithium ion, etc. all at 600 watts with a maximum of 20 amps. And next to that is a smart protocol USB-C connector that will charge your smart devices like phones and tablets at up to 65 watts, anywhere between 5 and 20 volts, depending on what the battery demands. And it supports all the usual fast charge modes. You could even charge your DJI Smart Controller or DJI Mini 2 batteries on fast charge with this. Next to that we've got a USB-A connector, and this is for firmware upgrades. So you just plug this included USB cable into your PC. This appears like a drive and you just drag the new bin file onto the charger. ToolkitRC really do make it very easy to upgrade firmware. On the side there's a fan this side and ventilation this side, and apart from the startup burst, the fan only comes on when it's needed, when the internal temperature gets to a set level. And on the back here there's an XT60 input connector. You just plug a DC supply or another battery in here to power things up. Anything between 7 and 35 volts and a maximum of 25 amps is needed. To get the full 600 watts out of this you will need the 35 volts though. Oh, also on the back there's this speaker and an SD card slot, and these are for the customizable voice alerts and welcome screen. Yes, this battery talks to you. Okay, so if you haven't used a ToolkitRC charger before, I'll show you how just incredibly simple it is. I've got a 4S 1300 milliampere battery. Just plug that in the front there. And notice this lights up to tell you that it's actually plugged in, which is great. It's immediately telling me that this is 15.41 volts, and these are the individual cell voltages. And this one's pretty well balanced at around 3.8 volts. And down the bottom there is the total again. To start charging, you simply click the scroll wheel and you choose the battery type. It's on LiPo, that was the default, but you can choose LiPo, high voltage LiPo, lithium ion, and also nickel metal hydride. It's also got lead acid, which usefully has got the cycling feature that you need for that. And I'm really pleased that they've kept the UAV battery. This is great because it means I can choose to charge my Mavic, Phantom and Inspire batteries. I'll show you that in a minute. So let's pick LiPo. Cell count is auto, but you can manually select that if you want. You can have charge mode, discharge mode, or storage charge. With discharge mode you can choose to store internally or put an external load on here if you want, but we're going to choose charge. End voltage is 4.2 volts, which it picks up from LiPo. And the charge current, well, I don't want 4.3, let's go down to, oops, wrong way. Where are I? 1.3 amps, there we go. And start charging, you just hit start, confirm, and there we go. All very nice. So this shows you the current that it's actually delivering to the battery at the moment. This is the total voltage. Along the top here are the input volts, so that's 18 volts coming off my DC supply. How much power is being used, the internal temperature of the charger, and this tells you whether the fan's going, but you can hear when it's going anyway. And if we scroll along here, this shows us the balance voltage. The little flashing rectangles show you which cell is being balanced at the moment. We're going up to 3.9 here. And if you click it again, this will show you the internal resistance of each of the cells. Generally these need to be about the same. If they're wildly different, then it's probably time to get rid of your battery. And it tells you the total internal resistance down there. And that's all there is to it. You just leave it there until it's finished. And along here it tells you the charging time as well, which is great. So what else can you charge with this? Sorry, I didn't show you. You can change the current mid-use, or you can hit stop, which is what I'm going to do now. So as well as LiPos charging on the bench, you can also charge it from your battery when you're out in the field. I can also charge my phone if I can find it. Here we go. So let me disconnect that. So this is a USB-C to USB-C connector. I can plug that into there and plug this into my phone. And this is get that out. Right, this is charging. So if we long press the single button down here, this gets us to another menu, and we can see the USB information there. And you can see that this is charging using the PDF protocol, which means it's fast charging. All very nice, and it shows you the volts and the current. So it's charging at 10 volts at about half an amp. That's because that's what this phone has asked for. That's the whole point of the smart charge protocol. The charger and the device communicate and ask, how much do you want? And the charger says, okay, I'll give you that. So let's just disconnect that. Other things that we could charge are, got a DJI smart controller here. If I plug that in, that's starting to charge. Now that's switched to QC2, which is quick charge 2. And if you look on here, that little LED flashing quickly like that shows that it's quick charging. So I could charge this smart controller from a LiPo out in the field. I could also charge my Mavic 2 Mini batteries, again, using the same cable. And that's switched to PDF mode, and this is charging 1.5 amps at 12 volts. All very clever and very useful. Now, as I said before, they've kept the ability to charge UAV batteries. So I've got a Phantom 4 Pro battery here, and what I can do, let me just escape out of there, plug that into there. These cables are a little bit difficult to get hold of these days, but you can still find them. So let's select UAV bat, and we'll choose Phantom, start, and this, there we go, this should start charging. Fantastic. Now the reason it's gone for that is because I haven't got my current turned up on my DC supply high enough. That's the thing you've got to remember. This can't give you more power out than it's getting in. So I've turned that up to 3 amps now. Okay, so let's just, so we don't want to start that. What I want to do is try charging a Mavic 2 battery. Again, I've got one of these XT60 to Mavic 2 battery connectors. They are quite difficult to find, but like I say, you will find them if you look hard enough. I'll plug that in there. We're going to choose Phantom. No, we're not. We're going to choose Mavic. Hit start. There we go. Charging my Mavic battery up. Fantastic. Hit stop. So very useful. You can charge pretty much anything with this, out in the field or on the bench, powered from a LiPo. It's very useful. So let's have a quick look through the menu options. To get to the main menu, long press the scroll button, and we've got a whole raft of different options here. So input settings, you can change the power type, whether it's adapter, maximum power, all sorts of stuff. If you want to, press that to escape out. Security settings, this is to do with changing the, it doesn't really mean security, it means where it's going to cut off from doing things. They're sort of limit switches really. Personalisation, this is probably where most of you are going to be playing about. You can change the backlight volume. I've knocked this down to 2 on here because it's really swamping the camera. If I take that up any higher, look, it all bleaches out, you can't see anything. It is very bright. You can change the volume of the clicks. You can turn the voice on and off. Let me turn that on. I've turned it off because it's distracting when I'm trying to do the review. You can change the warning volume, language, the theme. You've got dark and light, so on, if you want to. Next option is battery selection. If you turn this on, the charger remembers the last 6 settings, I think it is. I need to check. What that means is it's sort of like a quick menu, so if you've only got a couple of battery types, it's a really useful thing to have on. So you don't have to go through all that battery selection thing. You just pick between the 2 of your favourites. It's like a favourites really. Continuous work. If you're trying to charge 4 of these, one after the other, when it reaches the end charge, you can just unplug it and plug it back in again, and it will continue charging if you've got continuous work turned on. That can be quite useful. Work completed. When it's finished charging, you can end charge or trickle charge. Now I tend to leave it on trickle charge because sometimes the charger beeps and sits in the corner and I won't go over to it for 5 minutes, so I just tend to leave it on trickle. Balance start volume. Oh, sorry, I was wondering what that was for a minute. That determines whether it's going to do a balance before it starts charging. Okay, very good. Now the other great thing about the M9 is it's not just a battery charger, it's a multi-function test tool, so you can use it to debug your receivers, your servos and all sorts of things. There's a little port on the front here with 3 connectors. You just plug a servo lead into there and you can use that to test your servos. You can use it to drive your ESCs. You can also use it to measure signals, so we could take the signal out from, let's say, an S-Bus receiver, plug it in here and you'll see the signal on the display. So that means that you can use this to debug or troubleshoot your quad build when something's not working as it should be. So to get to the measurement menu, just long press this button up here. First of the tools is measure resistance, so if we select that, it takes us to the internal resistance measurement page. So we've seen this before, so this is showing us that the internal resistance of each of our cells is about 15 milliohms and the total is 63, and obviously if you had 8S it would show you the other cells as well. And the whole reason for this is if one of these is wildly different from the others, then it's probably time to dispose of your battery because it's not going to perform that well. So you can check your cells, that's all fairly normal. Now we can also measure signals, so let's select that. So I could plug into here, say a PPM receiver, or let's have a look here, an S-bus receiver, plug it into that port at the front, and it allows me to see what the S-bus signal is doing. So if you want to check that your receiver is actually working and generating an S-bus signal, you can use this to check it out. It's very useful. Let's get out of that. You can also generate signals, so I'll select this. What this allows you to do on the port here is generate different types of signals. You can generate PWM, PPM, S-bus. Very, very useful. So I can use this, for example, to connect a servo plug onto here and connect it into my flight controller and check that. So if we come down here, I can move this about and generate an S-bus signal, and you'll be able to see that on your flight controller in Betaflight. And it allows you to check that your flight controller is working as it should do. All very nice. Let's get out of that. There we go. Now you can also test ESCs. So if we select this, we can connect the output on this servo port here to an ESC, and you could connect it to a motor, and you can actually drive it, make it move, which means that if you've got one of your 4 ESCs that you've got connected to your quad doesn't seem to be working, you could use this just to check that it is the ESC, or it may be the output of your flight controller, for example. Get out of that. Now the other thing you can do is use this as a DC power supply, so you can set a voltage, let's say 10 volts, and we can select anything up to 20 amps. So it makes it a useful DC power supply if you haven't already got one. So a whole raft of tools in here to help you troubleshoot your RC components, if you like. Now there's one last screen on here, and that is the calibration screen. So I'll just turn the power off on this for a second. Remove that. Now you get to the calibration screen by holding the scroll button down and turning the power on. And we get to this page. Now what this allows you to do is to calibrate the actual voltage on the input, the output, and all the different balance connectors on your balance port. You just connect everything up, connect a multimeter on here, and you can tweak these, or you can check them to start with, and you can tweak them if they're not correct. Now I've already gone to the trouble of checking this one, and I would advise on any battery charger, ToolkitRC or not, it's worth checking the calibration. This one was actually pretty spot on, so I was very pleased with that. To get out of that, you just turn the power off. Now one of the other things I'll show you is the voice output on this. Now I've turned it off because it's a bit annoying whilst I'm trying to review this, but if you long press this button here and go down to personalization, you can change the volume of the voice output on this. I've turned it off for the minute, so let's turn it to medium.
Medium. Input settings. Security settings. Low battery voltage.
Well, if you want those voice commands, then you can turn them on. For every single command, it can be quite annoying, but where it's really useful is when you've got your charger sitting behind you on the bench and it beeps to tell you that it's finished. Now there's so many things around here that beep, so having the voice output to say, you know, charge finished is extremely useful. But for all the other things, well, it's entirely up to you. So very strange. You can customize these if you want. You just change the WAV files that are on this, or MP3 files, can't remember which, that's on this SD card, and you can make them what you want. If you look at the range of chargers available from ToolkitRC now, they've pretty much got all budgets covered. They start at around $20 for the M4 Pocket that I reviewed last month, up to $120 for the M6D AC. And this M9 is at the top end of their price range, but it does pack in most of the features of their other products, chargers and multifunction checkers and testers. So at $79.99, this does give you a lot of functionality. And in the last couple of weeks since I received this, I've been using it as my daily charger, and it's been faultless. The calibration out of the box was very good, but I do suggest checking any charger before you start using it. So what's next for ToolkitRC? Maybe a dual AC powered version of this? Who knows? But what I do know is they continue to produce great products at sensible prices. My ideal charger though would have most of what this has got, plus NFC tags to remember your batteries. That way the charger can read the NFC tag, so it automatically knows the charger settings. Also, an API accessible via the USB, the connector down the bottom here, so that I can keep logs of my battery's charge cycles, or maybe an app that talks to the charger via Bluetooth. But all these sort of features would add to the price, and ToolkitRC have done a great job at delivering feature-packed chargers at a sensible price. As always, thanks for watching, and if you found that helpful, why not buy me a coffee to support the channel? There's links in the description. And I'll see you next time.